Hey everyone, this is Jared Uden at ConfidenceForTheSpotlight.com and the creator of the Rockstar Speakers Playbook. Listen, I want to welcome you officially to the Masterclass, 5 public speaking hacks that can cause you to dominate in the boardroom. Now, this is going to be very particular and key for women professionals especially, because did you know that there are some real advantages that you ladies have over the men when you speak in public? Women really do have the advantage when it comes to public speaking. And in this masterclass, I intend to uncover 5 simple secrets that you can use right now to dominate in the boardroom. And particularly for women, I'm going to uncover some secret strategies and things and advantages that you have over the men and how you can use those to your advantage. Now, the big reason I'm doing this masterclass today is because very few women actually realize that they have the advantage when it comes to public speaking. Over the last 10 years, not only have I been a professional, motivational, and public speaker, I've spoken to over 150,000 people in live audiences nationwide. I've spoken on talk shows. I've done talk show warm-ups. I've done conferences. I've done book seminars, I've done keynote speeches, you name it. Every kind of public speaking I have done in my career. And I've even spoken on the TED stage. If you're familiar, it's one of the most respected platforms on the planet. And over the past couple of years, I've really spent a lot of my focus training entrepreneurs, and the majority of them are business owners who are women. And I've trained them whenever they had to do a public presentation or a business pitch or hit the stage and do a keynote speech or a panel or let's just say a podcast interview or a radio interview or even a TV interview. So I have trained most of my clients on how to hit the stage and how to do it with confidence. So what I'll be speaking from today is that very experience from actually training my clients to hit the stage, the majority of them who are women. Now, what I've noticed when I've trained all of my clients, especially the ladies, is that not only do they have the advantage over the men with public speaking, but seldom do they realize that they have the advantage. And so I want to uncover for you what those advantages are, and I want to help you change the power dynamic, and I want to help you really dominate in the boardroom, but not just the boardroom, but anytime you have to get on stage, deliver your talk, stand in your spotlight, even if that spotlight is an interview. And I want you to take these keys, use them to your advantage, and then in the end, not just be a good option, but be the only option that they want to run with or invest with. All right? So I do have my notes here because this is a masterclass. And the first thing I want to share with you before I dive into those 5 simple secrets, I want to talk to you about something called the celebrity effect. And so I've dealt with a lot of public speakers who are going to be speaking for the first time on a really big stage, and they're going to be in a lineup of other speakers who are more well-known than them. And they sometimes get a little nervous or intimidated by that kind of spotlight. And what I want to share with you is a little bit of encouragement here, because I remember my very first really big public speaking engagement, and I was just coming out of college. Now let me tell you about this speaking engagement. I was a senior in college and I had won a speech competition. It was a scholarship competition actually. And this competition, when I won, they asked me to come back at the end of that conference and speak on stage for 10 total minutes and address the audience. Now the audience, there were about 350 students in the audience who were in college freshmen, and then there were also, I think, about 800 other people in the audience, from civic clubs to political organizations. Now let me tell you about this event. I was up on stage and I was number 1 out of 10 speakers total that would be talking to the audience that day. Now let me tell you, I was super intimidated because not only was I on the stage, but you had politicians on the stage, you had reality TV stars that were on the stage, you also had bigwigs in business and celebrities, you had actors up there, and then to top it all off, guess who else was there? President Barack Obama. Now, at the time, he wasn't President Obama. He was actually running his campaign, and he was still Senator Obama in Chicago. But he was all the craze, and so everyone really showed up to hear him speak. So over 1,000 people in the audience, all these major speaker players, and then little old me, who was completely unknown. And so when you're on a stage like that, or if you're just in a room of other speakers who are more well-known than you and you're unknown, it can be really intimidating. But let me tell you something, if you ever face something like this, do not quit out on the opportunity, because you know what? Let me tell you, you actually have just as much of a chance to influence that audience and leave with a standing ovation, just like everyone else that's up on that stage with you. Let me tell you what happened that night, and I call this the celebrity effect. So I was the first speaker to get up there and speak, and when I got up there, I was a little intimidated, and I was gonna say the whole, stay in school message, don't do drugs, that kind of a message. And then I thought to myself, you know what? And in the last 10 minutes, right before I got up to go speak, I decided, you know what, no one's really gonna buy that. I have to say something that's really gonna stick with this audience if I wanna be memorable and if I really want that audience to go forth and do something positive with their lives. So you know what I decided to do? In the 7 out of the 10 minutes that I had to speak, what I did, I jumped up there on stage, on the microphone, and I said, hey guys, let me just share with you my story really quickly. And I talked to them just really honest and really deeply. And I said, you know what? When I was a freshman in college, I made some mistakes. I talked to them about how I joined a fraternity within my college years and how I made a lot of mistakes down the line. I made a lot of bad choices. I talked about how I got in some trouble when I was in school. I went deep down and talked about the embarrassing moments, the classes that I failed, the lies that I told in my life, and all the deep down embarrassing things. And then I told them about how I came out of it on the other side of it and became successful as a successful college grad. I'm telling you, when I told that story, when I went really deep and I kept it there, the audience was like spellbound. And then I delivered my final points at the very end of the presentation, like, listen, I want you guys to unfollow the crowd and stay true to who you are. And I just delivered those couple of points. And in the very end, everyone stood up and I got the longest standing ovation that entire night. And let me tell you something, it was all because of authenticity. At the end of the day, as a speaker, whether you're known or whether you're unknown, what people really care about is your authenticity. They want to know your heart. They want to know your story. They want to know how they can relate to you. You're there up on stage to take them through an experience. That's what you're there for. So it's not about you. It's about uncovering yourself, stepping out from behind yourself and into the conversation and make it real. Go there and go deep. Later on that night, as the other speakers got up there on stage and said their little talk, these are celebrities, by the way. When they talked, they didn't go a mile deep. They just said some random stuff. Let me tell you something. When the MC got up on stage and said, okay, give so-and-so a round of applause. Come on, let's clap a little harder. They literally had to pump up the audience to make them clap for these other celebrities. Because let me tell you something. These celebrities got up there and then they said nothing of real deep value like I did. And that's when I learned that day. And this is the biggest secret when it comes to speaking on stage with other people that are more well-known than you. People really only care, if you're a celebrity, people really only care for about 5 minutes that you're a celebrity, if you're on stage talking. After that, they're like, all right, come on, you better say something of value, entertain me, enrich me, make me think, or get off the stage. And if after 5 minutes you don't say anything that's gonna entertain me or really help my life, I'm gonna ignore you, get on my phone, start texting, tune you out. I might get up on stage later on to get a quick selfie with you because you're famous so I can post it online, but after that, that's really it. And we really had to motivate the audience to like, come on, clap for this guy. And all of the other 8 people that night literally almost fell flat because they had nothing of value to say. Think about the award shows for a second. Anytime someone, a famous artist or an actor or someone wins a Golden Globe or an Oscar or a Grammy, when they get up on stage, you're excited to see them for like 10 seconds. But after that, it's like, all right, I really don't care about what you have to say, so hurry up and get off the stage. And that's how it is with speaking. So if you are not a celebrity, if you're not well known, do not worry, because guess what? You have just about as good a chance as they do to make a real impact when you hit the stage, known or unknown. So I just want to share that with you really quickly because I think a lot of times we as speakers, or even as novices who are unknown, think that we have to work so hard to make an impact with an audience. And really at the end of the day, you don't. All you have to do are a few things that I'm going to share with you, but it starts with telling a story. And so let's just kind of go into point number 1 because that is the whole heart behind this talk today. So number 1, the first thing you want to do is tell a story. Always lead in with a story. So if you have a PowerPoint presentation to deliver, if you have a business pitch to deliver, if you have a product that you want to pitch in the boardroom or an idea that you want to pitch, always lead in with a story. Stories are how you get your listeners sort of on board with you. Stories have the power to help people to agree with your perspective. If you're ever speaking to an audience, have you ever thought to yourself like, okay, this person, they're nodding their head, they're listening to me, but they're probably really just planning their rebuttal, or they're planning an argument as I'm talking, or you feel like you're not being heard? Usually that's because you don't lead in with a story. always lead in with a story. Now, I know a lot of my clients who I train to do PowerPoint presentations and business pitches, a lot of their presentations are very data driven. And so they say, oh, well, I really don't have time to tell a story in, in the beginning because there's so much data and so many slides we have to get through. And I'm like, you know what? No, sacrifice the data for the story, because the story is how you get people remembering your name. The story is how you get people remembering the little pieces of data that come after it. The story is what fires up the amygdalas and the subconscious part of people's brains of your listeners, and it gets them agreeing with your perspective. It gets them dancing to your music, marching to your beat. So listen, if you have 99% data to present in a presentation, what I say, spend at least 25% of that time telling a story. If it's data driven, let me tell you, every piece of data, every number, every statistic backs into some human being, backs into some story related to the data. So what I say is, take some time and tell a story. Viola Davis, for example, famous actress, she is a very great example of this. When she gets up on stage, she doesn't just give an acceptance speech. As a matter of fact, she even gave a reporter some feedback one time. The reporter asked her, they said, Viola, how is it that, you give these amazing, resounding speeches every time you get up and accept an award or every time you speak somewhere? And she said this. She said, that's the key. I actually don't give speeches or acceptance speeches. I tell testimonials. And that was so key to me. This is something that we should all be doing, because people look forward to when she gets on the mic and she speaks or accepts an award because they know she's going to tell a story. That's the thing that we're actually looking forward to when she gets up on stage. She always tells us about a time when. She tells us about where she came from, whether it was rags to riches or coming from an adverse situation. She talks to us about how tough it was in life, how she made it through. She delivers us a lesson, and then she tells us how she is where she is now. Rags to riches, from start to finish. She takes you on a journey as she's telling her story. And that's what we look forward to. And you know what's amazing? Is after she's done telling that story, she can pretty much deliver us any piece of information, whether it's a go-to, whether it's a cause. She can tell us to go do anything she wants us to do, or a website, or buy a product, and we'll probably go do it because she told us a story, and that story got us on board with her, and it got us dancing to her music. So no matter where you are, what setting, whether it's a radio interview, a business pitch, or a product idea, always start by telling a story. And ladies, here's your advantage number one. Women, you are so much better than men at telling stories. You're really better at connecting with the details, with the moment of what it was like. You're better at remembering a lot of information too. And you have just this ability to take people on a journey. Ladies, did you know that if you're in a business pitch competition and you're in the same room with all your competitors, did you know that the minute you step foot in the building and your other male competitor teams see you walking in, do you know that men actually tremble in their boots? Because we know we are weaker in this area than you are. You have this divine ability to tell a story and really make us feel it, because you're more usually insightful with the process. You're more insightful. So that's where you have the number one killer advantage. All right, so tell more stories, add more stories to your mix, and you are more likely to win your audience over. So that's number one. The second thing I want to do, whenever you tell a story, go a mile deep and keep it there. That is where you will win. Go a mile deep and keep it there. So again, whenever your presentations are too, data heavy or data driven, take that data, filter through your mind, and ask yourself, what is the conclusion of this data? Who does this data actually affect? How did we come up with this data? Okay. Usually the best data or the best presentations or the best inventions solve some sort of problem for human beings. So I want you to think about who is directly impacted as a result of this data. What people on the end of this data will feel the most impact from this project being launched? Okay, all I'm trying to say is every piece of data has a human being or a community or someone in the end that will be impacted. Tell their story, and then tell them why this solution is directly key for these individuals. So always think about the individual. Always put a spotlight on them. When you do that in the beginning, then the data will matter. See, if you just start opening up your presentation talking about the data, no one's really gonna care. No one's really gonna think about the data. We have to humanize it. We have to give it skin. We have to give it a face. That's why stories are so important. Listen, our brains are hardwired for story. When you tell a story and then you go a mile deep and you keep it there, man, you got them. You will hear a pin drop in the room. And that's what we're going for, because when you hear a pin drop in the room, it usually comes after a story of some sort. And that's when you know you've got them. So always tell a story. And then number two, which I just mentioned, go a mile deep and keep it there. In other words, the best presentations I've ever done are the times where I've talked about an embarrassing mistake that I've made at some point, but then how I went back and made up for it. I can tell about some mistake that I made that was really horrible. And I don't just skip over it and leave it there. I actually stay there for a while. I walk them through the process. I talk about the pain points, how it felt. I talk about the things that I had to go through. And then I include that story with a final finish and some advice. And so that is what I recommend to all of you that you do. Go a mile deep and keep it there. Now, ladies, you're really good at this, and this is where men actually get it wrong. This is where men are afraid, because men, we're more ego-driven. So we have to look like the man when we get up on stage, right? We have to look like we know everything or we've got it all together. And that's usually never the case. That's not human. And so usually we're afraid to be vulnerable. We're really afraid to go a mile deep and keep it there and talk about the embarrassing things. So, but you have to do that. Ladies, you're just naturally better at that, talking about your mistakes and being open and honest. And so that's another key advantage that you have, but go a mile deep and keep it there. And I'm gonna share this with you. If you ever look at the show Shark Tank on ABC, now this is a killer advantage. I'm gonna show you why they really invest more so in female-owned businesses than male-driven businesses. Number one, women typically set smaller goals, but you achieve almost 100% of your goals, usually because those goals are smaller and easier to achieve. Men, on the other hand, men set really, really big goals statistically, but usually those goals are way too big and way over our heads. And so what happens is when we achieve big, but we are less likely to achieve because our goals are really, really huge. Ladies, on the other hand, when you start achieving your goals, you know, step by step, inch by inch, what it actually does is it creates in the workplace an ecology of winning. It creates a very positive, uplifting, and winning atmosphere. And let me tell you something, when it comes to when it comes to, I'll say, investors, you know, when it comes to angel investors, they really like to invest in female-owned businesses because they understand that you make the majority of your goals. They understand that when a woman is in a leadership position and runs that business, you are more likely to achieve all the goals that you set, and you're more likely to be realistic. Women, because you're more insightful, you also know exactly what's going on at almost every dimension, every layer of your business, because you're insightful. You think about your business, you think about your people, you think about where they're going. You really think about your business as a relationship, as a human being. And women business owners are typically more trustworthy than male-owned businesses. Just a key. So whenever, ladies, you go into the boardroom or you want to pitch your idea or your brand or whatever it is, understand that you have the advantage there too, because you're more in tuned, you're more insightful, and you know every layer of your business. Okay. So let's keep on moving with this one. I'm gonna skip over and I'm gonna say number 4 on this. So number 3 was, when it's data-driven, your presentations, sacrifice the data for the story, and then you're gonna have them on board. So number 4, in any presentation, I tell everyone, pop the question. After you're done telling your story and then you're done delivering the data and the statistics, I want you to pop the question. Now, this is a way that you can push the information back on your audience of listeners in a gentle way and really make them own the data and really make them think about it. Pop the question. So when you pop the question, almost ask the question to an investor group or another business. If you're trying to pitch for business, you almost ask them, try and imagine 3 months from now what your business is going to look like and what are the implications for you, for your business, for your colleagues, for your bottom line. What are the implications if nothing changes? If you do nothing at all about this problem that's on the table, what's it going to look like? And then I usually get quiet and let them answer, let them really think about it. This is a way of making them have skin in the game. And then you introduce your solution and you talk about how easy it is to onboard. That is what I suggest. Always pop the question. And you can ask your audience a series of questions in the form of your presentation. Always ask them. What you really want to do is make them have some skin in the game so that they own whatever solution you present next. Make them have skin in the game. One of my colleagues, her name is Margie, she does a really great job at this. She's another speaker in my network, and what she did, one time she was backing out of her driveway. She tells the story a lot. She was backing out of her driveway, and she was on her way to the airport. Well, what happened is she was running late to the airport, but as she was backing her car out of the driveway, another car, they live on a very thin street, so as she was backing her car out of the driveway, there was another car that was behind her, parked at the neighbor's house on the street. And so the car was so tight in that she couldn't back out of the driveway, so she had to put her car in park, go across the street and knock on her neighbor's door and ask them, hey, is that your guys' car out front? Hey, I'm on my way to the airport. Do you mind just moving it real quickly so I can back out of my driveway and get to the airport? And they said, oh, sure, no problem. That's my daughter's boyfriend. He's over here visiting here. I'll have him move his car. And she said, great, thanks so much. Well, a few weeks later, she was on her way to the airport again, on her way to take a very important speaking engagement, and she couldn't be late. And so she went to go back out of her driveway again, and guess what? The same car that was parked across the street weeks ago is there again. So she puts her car in park, goes across the street, knocks on the door, and she says, hey, Bob, you know, the car's there again. Hey, I really got to go. Can you tell him to move it? And he was like, oh, yeah, I told him not to park there. And so he moves the car, and she gets ready to go off to the airport. Well, this happens a third time. And by this time, she says, you know, I thought we had this conversation. I really thought that we took care of this. I really thought we had some understanding and respect here. So she goes across the street, she knocks on the door, but this time she does something different. Watch this. She says, hey, Bob, you know, I noticed the car is there. And he said, oh, yeah, you know, I told him to move it and so and so and so. She said, yeah, no problem. Said, listen, you know what? I actually had a quick conversation with one of the homeowners association representatives, and they said, you know, there's like a new code within our homeowners manual or whatever that they're getting ready to approve, where people who are parked on the street during such and such hours, they're actually going to give tickets to the homeowners, and they're going to basically charge us $250 per time those cars are parked on the street during these hours. And she said, you know, I noticed one of the golf carts driving by when one of the guys with, you know, looking like a meter maid who was basically writing tickets. And she said, he didn't stop by and write you one, but I did want to let you know, you could be paying for this. And he said, what? Are you kidding me? And he ran inside, grabbed his guest and told him to come outside, move his car. Let me tell you what happened. That car was never parked on the street ever again. What did she do? She made him have some skin in the game. But let me tell you, that is what popping the question does. Every time you pop a question to your audience, you can ask them any question that you like. Whatever it is, it will make them have skin in the game. It'll make them own your presentation. Put some skin in the game. Now, the other thing is, here's a big, huge bonus here. Let your silence do the heavy lifting. Most times we are so afraid to just get quiet whenever we're doing a presentation. Anytime I pop a question in a presentation, you know what? I stop and I get quiet. Let your silence do the heavy lifting. Truth be told, people's brains need a few seconds after you're done talking to actually absorb what you just said. So don't just try and fill up the air with words and sounds because you're too uncomfortable to let there be some silence. It's okay. Let there be some silence. The more silence you implement, the more pauses you put in your presentation, the more likely that audience is to remember what you said. And the easier it is for you. You won't have to work as hard to get them onboarded with your ideas. Just like I'm doing right here. Let your silence do the heavy lifting. I want to tell you a quick story. I had a client one time who I was sitting with, and I was at her office and I was helping her to be a better sales presenter, okay? And so she had a lot of sales presentations that she had to do over the phone. She had to pitch her company to investors and other Fortune 500 businesses. She had to pitch them for services. So I sat in her office there one day with her, and I was just monitoring and watching her. I said, just let me see you do your thing, and then I'll give you some feedback and we'll take it from there. So I sat there for about 45 minutes and listened to her do a phone call over speakerphone. and she was pitching a business, a whole team of C-suite executives with their team of attorneys, and she was trying to pitch them a brand new service for them to buy, a $500,000 package. So as I'm sitting there listening to her, she's going through all the data, she's telling stories, she's doing everything right. She's putting in pauses. I'm like, wow, this young lady is a rock star. I don't see where she's gonna need any help from me. And so as I'm listening to her, she gets all the way to the end, 45 minutes in, and you can tell from listening to the people on the other line that they're really sold. They're gonna want whatever she has to sell. And so in the end of the presentation, 45 minutes in, I can tell that these people are ready to buy. All she's gotta do is just pop the question and get the ask. But instead of popping the question, instead of asking for what she wanted, you know what happens? Instead of asking, she literally said, okay guys, so I know we're running up on our time. You guys have a hard stop at 3:45 p.m. So this is what we're gonna do. You know, I know it's coming around time for the holidays and I understand everyone's budgets are tight and you know, so I think what really makes the most sense right now is I put together a plan, a package, a proposal, and I'll send it over to you guys, and after the holidays are done, you know, take another look at it and we can maybe reconvene and see what you think then. And I'm thinking to myself like, no, what are you doing? Like they're literally ready to buy. But her hesitancy, her not letting the silence do the heavy lifting, her not asking for what she wanted, literally made them on the other line rethink her value. She could have asked for the buy, and I could tell they would have written the check right then for at least half up front, hands down. So ladies, this is one of the areas that I've noticed a lot of my clients struggle with. And it's the point of asking for what you want in the end of the presentation. Let your silence do the heavy lifting and really ask for what you want. Then get silent. Pop the question and don't be afraid to ask for your value. Really go in there and just ask. And the whole thing is she was so knowledgeable. She was so good. She was charismatic. Her cadence, her timbre, her tone, her storytelling, everything was on point. She just got to the end and did not ask for what she wanted. She didn't realize the value she was unpacking on that phone call to those listeners. She made them have skin in the game and everything. So she literally, her mistake was she talked them right out of the deal that she wanted them to make. She built them all the way up to it and then she turned them around all on her own. There weren't even any objections. So ladies and gentlemen, when you get to the end of your presentation and you do everything that I've told you to do, always ask for what you want in the end. Ask for the sale and confidently ask for it. And here's a really huge key. This is number 5 and this is it. If you're still not confident after everything that I've shared with you, after all the value that you can impact just by telling a story and asking questions and putting in some silence, going a mile deep and keeping it there and letting the data, you know, be sacrificed for the benefit of the story, if you're still not confident in your worthiness and in your value at this point, this is what you do. Fake it. Act like you're confident. Listen, confidence and passion in a presentation, it has a way of making people in your bubble, in your circle, feel more confident as you deliver confidence. The only way to get more confident is by doing something that you don't think you have the confidence to do and doing it confidently. So if you don't feel like you have the confidence, fake it. Fake it till you make it on this one. Because all you need is one solid win. All you need to do is experience victory one time in this area, and then all of a sudden, you're off. Okay? So I'll give you an example. There was a time I used to deliver workshops for teachers and administrators, whole room full of them, like 45 to 50 of them. And I used to do these workshops about teaching educators and administrators, teachers in particular, how to have better relationships with their students. It was a 6-hour workshop on classroom management. And one of the things that I used to tell the teachers all the time, listen, I know your job is political, I know it's stress, I know that you're wearing every single hat in the classroom between nurse, drill instructor, and by the way, teach. So, and your budgets are small and the pay is small and sometimes lackluster. You're dealing with more issues than you should have to deal with. And so you're stressed the majority of the day. I get it. And teens are very challenging. I said, but let me tell you something. At the end of the day, they come to class, the majority of them, because they know who they can count on. They know you're the one that they can count on. You're the one that's going to be consistent. You're the one that's going to be there. Even if their parents aren't there for them, guess what? You as their teacher are there every single day. You are one caring adult, and that one caring adult with that one position has the potential and the power to change the trajectory of their entire lives. So I'm sitting there talking to these groups of teachers, a whole room full of them, and I said, you know what? Even if you don't feel like it that day, if you don't feel like performing, if you don't feel like getting up in front of the room and delivering your best lesson or your best message, I said, you know what? Fake it. If you don't feel like it, if the energy's not there, fake it. Because you know what? They deserve your best presentation. So I'm gonna tell you, if you have something to pitch or present, a keynote, whatever it is, fake it. If you don't feel like it, fake it. Fake it, because your audience deserves the best you have to deliver. They deserve the best experience you have to offer. You go to any theme park, you go to Disney World, listen, those people don't always feel like being there, but you know what? They're gonna fake it, they're gonna smile because you deserve, for the money you spent, for them to have the best presentation ever. You go there, it's always clean, it's pristine. Let's just say a roller coaster doesn't feel like performing that day. You don't care. When you get on that roller coaster, you want the best ride of your life because you've paid the price. So just like your audience, give them the best experience with you possible. Give them the best experience. The very last tip I'm gonna share with you, and this is gonna be a bonus one, okay? Now, ladies, this is where I've noticed most of my female clients struggle the most. But gentlemen, you struggle with this too, and I've seen it in almost every single presentation, every single time you can tell someone's not confident. And this is how people get over on those people. Watch this. Whenever you pop the question, whenever you ask for what you really want in the end, the buy, the sale, whatever it is you've been working up to ask for, when you ask, never, ever raise your eyebrows as you ask. Always lower your eyebrows, keep them even, and ask confidently. The thing is, when you raise your eyebrows during an ask, you know what that says? It signals to your audience that you are not confident in your product. It signals to the audience that you're not confident in your value and you're not sure on what you have to deliver. And that makes the audience unsure if they want to buy from you or trust you or believe in you. So never raise your eyebrows when it comes to asking. I'm gonna give you an example. Here we go, watch this. Here's Exhibit A with my eyebrows raised. So the value of this package is $500,000, and we bill half up front and half when we're done. So what do you think? Did you hear that last word? When I said, so what do you think? When you raise your eyebrows, it signals to your audience that they have a choice in the price of your value, that they have a choice in the price of your package. Never raise your eyebrows. It changes the entire physiology of your body and even in your voice. It says that, hey, what do you think of my price? Never raise your eyebrows during an ask. Always lower your eyebrows. So Exhibit B, here we go. Eyebrows lowered. See how differently it sounds. So the price of our package is actually $500,000. We bill half up front, half later. What we can do is send you over a proposal, a contract, an MSA, get you to sign it, and then in the end, we will get started and we can do business right away. How's that sound? We make it really easy. See how I sounded a little bit different? Now, I noticed I raised my eyebrows a little bit halfway through that second one, but I dropped them. It sounds incredibly different when your eyebrows are lowered. It makes you sound confident, assertive, aware, that you know what you're doing, that you know what you're talking about. It makes you a person who's trustworthy. Lower your eyebrows, because whenever you raise your eyebrows, it makes people sort of wonder about you. It makes them think twice. You could have delivered a very powerful, dynamic presentation, but it makes them wonder, is this person, there's something about them we just don't quite trust yet. We don't really know. And that's when they start to question you and fact check you to see if you really know what you're talking about. And usually during those fact check moments, the presenter or the speaker, they kind of get nervous, they start shaking, and they can't recover, and then it goes downhill after a phenomenal, solid presentation. So in the end, when it comes time for the ask, always lower your eyebrows. Now listen, I know those were simple things to do, but I'm telling you, if you do those things, you will be miles ahead of your competition. Listen, people's expectations for a speaker or presenter are already so low that by the time you come in there with these 5 core, easy to implement strategies, you will be so far ahead of the game, it will be crazy the value you notice. So I just want to share those quick tips with you guys. And again, the Rockstar Speakers Playbook, this is where I go through from A to Z of all those things. Those are just 5 things. I go through like 90 steps in here that are so simple on how to create a dynamic presentation from start to finish. You can pick this up at confidenceforthespotlight.com. It also comes with a free 15 video course of how to get all the way through from A to Z. If you work on this, public speaking, let me tell you, effective public speaking is the #1 skill, the #1 human superpower on the planet that has the ability to up-level your personal value by like 80%. Even Warren Buffett said that when he started working on effective public speaking and building that skill, it gave him the confidence to sit in front of the room of investors, people who were older than him at the time. He started working on this skill at 21 years old. And when he did it, it made people respect him. It made him have a name that was well known. Effective public speaking, that skill is the thing that gave him the ability and the courage to propose to his wife, which he said was the most important decision of his entire life. So I want you to pick this up at confidenceforthespotlight.com. Comes with a free video course by me, and you also get a free 15-minute coaching session with me for any content that you need help developing, any keynote, any interview help. And so that all comes with this playbook. I even teach you in here how to create a $1 million speech, which is here too. And I also teach you exactly how to create a smoking hot elevator pitch, how to warm up for a presentation. I teach you about how to disrupt without destroying, how to hook any audience. I mean, we really go through it in here. And the reason I really created this playbook, this is 10 years of my experience of speaking to over 150,000 people live nationwide from start to finish, how I went from A to Z, and how you can do the exact same in just 1 weekend. You wanna up your value at work, you wanna up your value in your life, this is the thing that you need to take home this weekend, work on, and come back on Monday morning smoking hot. Let me tell you, all my clients that go through this, they're so up-leveled now. I have one client who I trained at her job. Her company wanted her to host their 40th anniversary for their entire company internationally, I think in Germany. And so she went there. We trained for about 2.5 months solid, just once a week. She went through my playbook in 1 weekend, and I worked with her so much that by the time we were finished, she was so confident. She was so afraid when we got started to publicly speak, but she was so confident in the end. She knew what to say, she knew what to do, everything from what to wear, gestures on stage, her attitude, her voice, every single thing, she knew what to do. By the time she got up on that stage to host, just to MC the 40th anniversary party in front of all of the company's clients, all the Fortune 500s, all from all around the globe, she did such a good job that company, she became known. Her name was known throughout every division and department. And in the end, they now want her as the only option to get up on stage and present that company at events like CES in Las Vegas, which is one of the biggest trade shows in the world. They want her as the only option to get up and do her thing and deliver every time that company has some sort of on-camera segment or any sort of live event. And so that's just one example. I've got several stories like that from people who have gone through my course and used me as their coach. But access me, and I'm here for you, all right? confidenceforthespotlight.com. Guys, thank you so much. I love you, and thank you so much for tuning in to this master